Good evening and welcome to SPORLITIKS, where sports and politics mix and mingle. I'm Stacey Johnson. Joining me tonight is Aguna, the Nigerian moderate Republican, Keith, the constitutional conservative, Stephen, the independent thinker, and my cousin Todd. Tonight or today or this week, the U.S. marked the 21st anniversary of the 9/11 terror attacks. President Biden headed today to Delaware to vote in their primary after he celebrated the Inflation Reduction Act at the White House. NASCAR with Stephen as he discusses Bubba Wallace's win in Kansas. The world mourns the loss of Queen Elizabeth II as a cloud of colonialism hangs over Queen's legacy in Africa. NFL Week 1. Game picks. I know I'm wearing my green for the Eagles because we won. We'll talk about the schedule. We'll talk about other. Steven talk a little bit about fantasy football and Ukraine. The last reactor at Zaporizhia, Europe's largest nuclear power plant, has stopped as Ukrainian forces make inroads against Russia. Todd and tennis, the winners from the U.S. Open. Former President Trump blasts Biden's anti-MAGA speech and says Biden is the enemy of the state. Trump also mocked the red lighting behind Biden's speech Thursday. Next stress for parents, all you parents as the kids return to school, lunch bills. How much are you paying as inflation goes up? But the president, what? He reduced it. That and more, if we can fit it in. Also, visiting us is my cousin Chris. Hey, cousin Chris. Nice to have you. You'll talk about your favorite team. And we know they don't know who your favorite team is. I know who your favorite team is, but we'll talk about that after NASCAR. But first up, let's look at this quick clip from NASCAR, and then Stephen, talk about Bubba Wallace's win afterwards. Check this out.
2 laps to go for Bubba. Bubba stretched the lead out a little bit right there. So Bubba can sit right here, I think, and just remain calm.
Down the back stretch again. Bubba Wallace still fighting to get by the 6 of Keselowski, so he doesn't have that car to deal with. The gap, though, between he and second, 1.3 seconds. Bubba Wallace coming up on the white flag. 1 lap to go. Presented by Credit One Bank. A win a year ago made history for Bubba Wallace. And now, this car, with Kurt Busch behind the wheel, won earlier this year here at Kansas. Bubba Wallace looking for his 2nd career win in the Cup Series. His final time through 3 and 4. He's going to do it. Bubba Wallace wins at Kansas.
Around the Bubba Wallace.
What they gonna say now, baby? Let's go! You know Hugh? Hugh down right now!
Team owner Denny Hamlin goes by to congratulate, and Bubba Wallace becomes the 18th different winner in 2022.
Way to go, man. Way to go, man. Yeah, baby!
All right. Stephen.
It was a great win for Bubba. He needed that win. He hadn't had one this year, and that kept him out of the playoffs, which he's still going for manufacturer award, Toyota. He's still going for that. His part of his team ownership is Denny Hamlin and Michael Jordan and some other people with Michael Jordan, and they're supporting him to do well. This is what he needs to do. He needs to win. He needs to be competitive. And see, he was in Kurt Busch's car, which I think is a little bit better than the car he was in. And he and he won the race. He was first in practice. It was a good bet to bet on him because he was more of a long shot than a lot of other people. So it was a good deal for him that day, and he came with the win, and that's what he needs. This is great momentum. This will make everybody who backs him happy, and this is really good for NASCAR as well. NASCAR is a very diverse sport. They have corporate sponsorship, because if you ever listen to a NASCAR person talk, they said, I would like to thank Coca-Cola, Goodyear, and they just go from there and just thank everybody. It's sport. They can't be a sport unless they're sponsored. So it's really good to have diversity. They have people from a lot of different countries that race in this sport, and they're the best of the best. And despite all this stuff that went on before, if people could just concentrate on driving and the absolute integrity that it takes to be a great driver, then nothing else matters. It doesn't matter if you're from Mexico. It doesn't matter if you're whatever. It doesn't matter if you're this is the best drivers in the world compete here. And if Bubba can compete, which he's shown he has, if he has the right equipment, then nobody cares. Nobody cares about anything. We just want a good race. And it was a good race. And this was good for everyone. Sponsorship, for NASCAR, for the people who enjoy a good race like me. Racing this year has been some of the best racing I've ever seen. It's next generation cars that are so different from where I grew up on 50 years ago. It's so much different, but it doesn't matter because it's so competitive, and everybody competes at this highest level, and it's wonderful. And I hope it keeps going the way it is. Next week, if you want to watch a good race, it's Bristol. It's on Saturday night, and you can see things during the evening that you can't see during the day. Like the brakes are glowing. You can see the colors are brighter. Everything at night looks better. So if you want to just catch a race, catch this Bristol race this week and just check it out. Just check it out. And the thing about Bubba is he's not in the playoffs. But next year, I believe he will be in the playoffs because they're going to have somebody else added to their team. The number 8, Tyler Reddick, is jumping next year or maybe the year after. It may be the year after. But if they keep building this team, the whole team's going to get better. And it was just apropos that Denny Hamlin finished second, and he's co-owner of Bubba Wallace's team. It was a great day in Kansas for everybody.
I'm on mute. Okay, sorry about that. I was on mute. Great day in Kansas. Chris, you're on mute. Take yourself off mute. Do you ever get a chance to see any NASCAR down there in Virginia where you are?
I've been to 2 races, one in Martinsville and one in Bristol. I've been to 2 races, one in Martinsville and one in Bristol. Martinsville is very loud, especially at night. Steven's on mute.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Now say that again, Chris.
Yep. I've been to 2 races, one in Martinsville and one in Bristol. Martinsville's about an hour.
And
what did it was about 2.5 hours away.
Okay. And you liked it? What did you think?
It was loud. Very loud.
You got to plug your ears, man. You got to plug your ears.
But see, I've been watching racing since I was a little kid. Richard Petty, Harry Gant, the Skull Bandit. David Pearson, Carl Yarborough.
That's my dad's favorite driver, David Pearson.
David Pearson. Yep. So when I was little, that was more popular on TV because there was less stuff on TV.
Yeah.
So the sporting event was on baseball, racing, whatever. That's what you watched. So, yeah.
Yeah. So you were watching in the 70s when it was fun.
Yes, I just told my age, but yes, I was watching in the 70s.
Hey, me too. Yeah. Me too.
No, Steven just told your age.
No, I'm where you are. But it's still fun. If you watch it now, it's still fun.
One of my favorite movies of all time was Greased Lightning with Richard Pryor about the story of Wendell Scott.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you ever saw that movie, Stacey? Greased Lightning?
No.
Yeah, we've talked about Wendell Scott, and it was so far back. but he was such a good driver, and he had other people helping him when he needed parts and stuff like that to help him out. So it's always been inclusive. It's not a sport that's not inclusive. They want to help somebody out. And he was a superstar, and he was a great person as well. He was really good for the sport.
Yeah, I agree.
Yep.
So speaking of sports, cousin Todd, you want to talk about tennis and Todd? Oh, I forgot to put up there the banner for NASCAR and Steven. Now I'll take that off and I'll do tennis and Todd. Sorry.
Well, he's given up on tennis. Serena's gone, so he don't want to talk about tennis anymore.
Not true. Tennis was pretty good. The women's, it was okay, but it was the men's tennis that really grabbed everybody's attention. With we call him Little Nadal.
No, you call him Little Nadal.
It's not.
You
It's not
call him
real,
that.
Todd. It's not real.
I call him by his name, and his
Todd,
name.
if they keep the best player out of tennis because he didn't get a shot, then it's not a real tournament. It's fake. Put an asterisk beside it.
I don't know what he's talking about, but
who did they keep out? The best tennis player in the league.
Ma'am. He chose not to play. Now I'm moving on.
No, he couldn't play.
You have to obey the ruls. That's it.
Well,
now I'm not going to let you and your Trump supporters sidetrack me.
2020. Mandating a shot is 2020.
He's talking about. So what is he talking about, Todd? Because this was an issue at the U.S. Open.
It was
Djokovic
not an
wasn't
issue.
there.
It is
because Djokovic wasn't there, and people are saying because he was not there, maybe my new favorite player, Alcaraz, might not have won all of it.
You're exactly right, Stacey. 100%.
So go ahead, cousin Todd.
That was not an issue at the U.S. Open. Only Trump supporters make that an issue.
We're not Trump supporters.
So you are.
I'm not.
Anyway,
I'm not a Trump supporter.
Hey! I want to get through tennis.
All right, go ahead. I'll shut up.
So now, Alcaraz and Tiafoe, that was a good match that I really
Isn't
didn't
it
watch.
Tiafoe?
It's
Is it Tiafoe or Tiafoe?
Well, you Americans say Tiafoe, but it's Tiafoe. Nevertheless, that was a good match that I didn't watch completely because I was scared. Now, for me,
what were you scared of?
I was scared that Tiafoe was going to lose. But for me, I won either way because Little Nadal is one of my favorites. He's coming up, and that's why we call him Little Nadal, because he plays like Nadal.
Well, you call him Little Nadal. I don't call him Little Nadal.
Okay, the smart people do. Now, and Tiafoe, I was hoping he won. So that's why I couldn't watch it straight through. So I kept turning it off, just like I did with Serena. And
then I kept saying, Todd, he won. I told you he was going to win.
Now, I was at the U.S. Open, and so was the Trump supporter.
Who?
Oh, Stephen, you were at the U.S. Open?
I'm not a Trump supporter, and I was not at the U.S. Open.
So what Trump supporter are you talking about, cousin Todd?
You.
I'm not a Trump supporter. Stacey? I have never been a Trump supporter. I worked for President George W. Bush, the son. I didn't work for President Trump. You must have, Todd. But I, was at the U.S. Open 2022 in New York.
All right. That's awesome.
And we got to see Carlos Alcaraz. My new favorite player.
He was playing an American.
You didn't get to see the best player.
No, Todd didn't get a chance to see Serena, and he lost his mind.
So
no, I'm talking about the male player.
Anyway, so that it was a good match. So the U.S. Open was pretty good. Now I'm going to go back next year, and even though Serena won't be there, but Venus
she might unretire.
Only white boys do that. So now Serena won't be there, but her sister will be. And Alcaraz, of course, little Nadal is what I call him. Tiafo. Hopefully, I was going to say Pete Sampras. Hopefully, Federer will be back. I think he's going to play in the Wimbledon.
What about Djokovic?
I think Federer is going to play in Wimbledon, and then U.S. he'll retire after that. And so that's and then Nadal, he'll be back. So it should be a good U.S. Open and Wimbledon. And I don't know anything about these crazy people you're talking about. Either you follow the rules or you get gone. So I don't even want to discuss Djokovic. Of course, Steven does because he's got a crush on him or something.
So what exactly were the rules?
Get your shot or get out.
Okay. All right. Let's go on to football.
Jenny was
Chris,
going to talk about tennis.
So let's go on to the NFL. Chris. Oh my gosh.
That's my son's team.
I can't see.
Buffalo. That's my son's team.
So Chris, what tell us about Buffalo, who they beat and by how much?
We beat the Rams 31-10. Puntless game, didn't punt the whole game. Offense was clicking. Two interceptions. One was a bad interception. One was just a bad catch from the receiver's part. But we beat the defending world champions. We stomped them out. We're the best team in the NFL.
Yep.
Well, I don't know about that.
I agree.
I don't know about that.
You're right. You're right, Chris.
Well, if we play the Eagles, it wouldn't be pretty, Stacey.
If you play them in the Super Bowl, you'll probably lose because that's what you do traditionally.
Wait a minute, man. It's supposed to be on my side.
You can't trust a Trump supporter.
I'm pulling for Buffalo, but Buffalo just seems not like they can't win a Super Bowl.
The only problem I have is the quarterback runs entirely too much.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And he'll get hurt.
Right.
So,
You're right.
And I watched all four losing Super Bowls, and one was worse than each loss was worse than the other. That's what we feel bad about. We lost the first one by 1 point, then we lost the second one by 10. We lost the next two combined by 60.
Yeah. Oh, I feel for you. I pull for you. I pull for Buffalo to win a Super Bowl. Hopefully, you do this year. You have a good enough team.
Wait. Let's not let that happen because the Eagles are playing. The Eagles won. That's why I have on my green. See, green lipstick, green eyeshadow, green for the Eagles. We won. We beat. Who did we beat? I don't even remember who we beat.
A really bad team.
Who did we beat? Detroit Lions.
Detroit, yeah.
That's my cousin Trayvon's team.
You beat Detroit.
That's my brother's team. Yeah, her cousin, my brother's team.
Yeah, you beat Detroit.
Yeah, but it was a very physical game, and we almost lost at the end. We almost lost that big lead we had in the fourth quarter because I was about to turn off the Eagles to watch Carlos Alcaraz. So, I almost missed the end of it.
Did you watch the Commanders?
No. What happened with the Commanders?
They beat Jacksonville. But you know what? Our crew right here, the four of us, we might need Keith, we might need Aguna, but all of us together, we could have beaten Jacksonville. Jacksonville hasn't won on the road in like 39 times. And the Commanders kept on making a lot of mistakes, but they ended up winning anyway. And it gets a few people kind of happy and excited about the year, but it was the Jaguars. It was nothing. Just like the Eagles win was nothing. But the best thing is, and I don't root for anybody to get hurt, but if they do, I celebrate. I celebrate Dak getting hurt. I love it. I absolutely love it. And I don't feel bashful about it. I'm glad he's hurt. I'm glad he's out for at least 4 to 8 weeks, and it takes Dallas out of contention. Hopefully, I don't like Dallas. I don't care about anything else. I don't like Dallas. So if we can kind of tone up a little bit and be as good as the Eagles, our quarterback threw 4 touchdowns. It was not a bad game. We had good receivers. Our running backs were good. But again, it was Jacksonville. It's nothing to get too excited about. The Eagles shouldn't get too excited. The Giants, on the other hand, should be excited. They got Barkley, who is running his butt off. He's healthy now. Barkley healthy is not good for the league. If they could win the entire division with Barkley, because none of us, the Eagles, the Redskins, or the Cowboys, have anybody as good as Barkley. So that might be a problem. But it was good that we all won. Everybody in our division won except the Cowboys. So if that happens every week, I'm happy. I'm just happy with it. So it's good. It was a good start to the year. And I'm impressed with Jalen Hurts. And he was the one that I told Aguna a couple years ago, he's going to be good. You got to keep him, when Aguna just wanted to give up on him. But Aguna finally admitted he might be on to something, because he is really good. He manages the game right. He can run well. He can throw well. He's not perfect, but he just has a lot of improvement that's going to come, that he's got a huge window to walk through. So he'll be fine. I think the Eagles are going to be fine this year. They might win the division.
But Stephen, I think last time we were talking about the NFL, you said you were no longer a Commanders fan. You had gone.
I've never been a Commanders fan. I'm a Redskins fan. And
but you said you went over to Buffalo,
so I'm
right?
a Washington fan. I'm not a Commanders fan. But they won their first game as a Commander. But they beat a team that hasn't won on the road in 39 or something games. Wow. They've been – my son's over 30. And my son comes to me every year since he's cognitive, as not a little child. He says, Dad, why are we Redskin fans? Because they just keep losing. It's no fun. But then when they change the name, I'm like, dude, you pick a team, I'll pick a team. He picked Buffalo. I picked the Raiders. The Raiders lost. Buffalo won. But we still have a soft spot for the Washington team that we've always rooted for. And when they win, we're happy. We're happy that they win. But they took the team name away, and they shouldn't have done it. They did it during a time when everybody was super woke. They took the name away when it was a Blackfoot man's face on the Redskin logo that was painted by a Blackfoot Indian. And the Blackfoot Indians all voted, and they said, we want this to happen. We want to be
twisted in your philosophy. The name has changed. Get over it.
National Football
No,
League.
it was offensive. It was offensive to Native Americans.
It was offensive to 30-year-old white women living in $500,000
this is a Trump supporter.
houses.
This is a Trump supporter.
It wasn't offensive to the Native Americans because they put a vote to it.
It was offensive to the Native Americans.
All Native Americans voted, and they said,
all right, I'm going to move on. It was
Redskins.
offensive to the Native Americans. How can you sit up there and say it wasn't offensive to the Native Americans?
It wasn't because of the vote. They went to every tribe and they voted.
Listen at this crazy person.
It's the Blackfoot
let me
tribe
say this to you,
that
Stacey,
represents the Redskins.
as you ignore him. No.
Don't say nothing to me, Todd. Don't talk to me, Todd. Don't talk to me. Talk to Stephen.
No.
Don't talk to me.
I wanted to change the
The
subject.
Blackfoot
and tell
tribe
you
represents
that
the Washington Redskins. And all the other tribes were like, we're cool with it.
Nobody's
listening
to
Stephen,
you.
we don't know what you're
And you know
talking
what?
about.
Hey.
When we played the Cowboys,
no
it was
to
the
drugs.
Cowboys versus the Indians. And we
Now,
were pulling for the Indians.
This is what I was going
And
to
she was not only the Queen of the United Kingdom, but the face of the monarchy to many countries in the Commonwealth. In total, there are 56 independent countries, including India, Pakistan, and South Africa. New Yorkers from around those nations, around the globe, are reflecting on what the Queen's death means. CBS 2's Tim McNicholas takes us to their communities.
Welcome to the Brooklyn Terminal Market. The bustling buildings where thousands of New Yorkers from the West Indies go for their grocery shopping. And today, where shoppers and employees from Jamaica reflect on the Queen's death.
She treat us well. You know, she look out for the country.
We're going to miss her. She's a wonderful person.
Charity always donating and stuff like that.
Ryan Martin, who works security at one of the market stores, remembers catching a glimpse of the Queen when she visited the country in 2002. She was still regarded as Jamaica's Queen, now a largely symbolic role, until her death.
It was good because everybody was excited to see the Queen, so it was a very good thing.
The Prime Minister of Jamaica says all Jamaican flags on public buildings will be flown at half-mast for 12 days. Some of the customers here say they'd like to find ways to pay respect here in New York. But some customers told us they were not fans of the royal family and their history. That includes Leroy Cummins, who moved here from Barbados in the 60s.
There are many things that we're concerned about, reparations and all different things that, you know, that occurred, you know, but on the behalf of her and her family, my condolences go out to their family.
And in Yonkers, the Queen's death is the talk of the tavern at Rory Dolan's. Waitress Maria Friel from Northern Ireland says many of her friends and family resent the Queen, but not her.
I thought she was a great woman. I technically look at her as like she was a grandmother, you know, she was a mother, and I'm kind of looking at that aspect of it more so than, you know, growing up in the North and being better.
As for Martin,
we love the Queen in Jamaica.
He says his family back home is mourning the Queen as well. Tim McNicholas, CBS 2 News.
Okay. I'm sorry, I missed a comment on our chat wall, and I can't get it up here for you guys. Oh, here it is. Our comment, you may not be able to see it, but Solomon Johnson said the Bills 2023 Super Bowl champs. All right. And I said,
I was trying to tell you.
Yeah, they could be. They got a team. They got a great quarterback. Great quarterback.
I was trying to say that you, when you were eating something, you remind me of Wendy Williams.
Oh, really?
Who's Wendy Williams?
Only Todd knows.
No, I'm just joking. I know who Wendy Williams is. Todd, why do you gotta be so hateful, Todd?
What do you mean?
Our thoughts
hateful?
and prayers.
Why do you call that hateful? Because I said she looked like Wendy Williams.
You are so hateful.
Why do you call that hateful?
Should have beat your cousin ass up.
Why do you call that hateful?
You're so mean.
Because he's crazy. Our thoughts and prayers to the family, the royal family, on the loss of Queen Elizabeth. I know a lot of people, and if anyone wants to add anything about that, no, I've never known a world without Queen Elizabeth, you know, or reigning monarch for over 50, 60, 70 years.
Yeah, 70.
I've never known anyone else but her, and a lot of people haven't. And regardless of what they feel about her and colonialism, to do your job every day up until the day before you die is just incredible for anyone to do. She never got a chance to retire. What are you going to say, Chris?
She didn't want to either.
It was to be rich. I mean, it's not a hard job to do.
Well, you know what happened? You know what happened, Stacey, during World War II? She became a mechanic, and she helped the war effort. And her mother helped the war effort. She's a really strong woman that should be revered, no matter what colonialism or whatever, you know, it's going on. Everybody wants to get mad at people. What's going on now with China going through Africa is worse than anything Great Britain ever did. But we don't hear anybody talking about that. What China's doing now to Africa is is like the rape of a million small children. They should not be allowed to do what they're doing. So
Stephen, we don't know what you're talking about. Stephen,
you don't know what's going on.
Yeah, we don't know what you're talking about.
You don't know what's
now.
going on with China that's going on and taking all of
that's
the
not what we're talking about. We're talking about Queen Elizabeth.
Africa. That's what China's doing
right
now.
Hello. We're talking about Queen Elizabeth, and we're sending our condolences to her family.
Right, but a lot
and
of
the
people are mad at her because of colonialism in Africa and other countries. What I'm saying is she was a great woman who was a strong woman, who was a smart woman, who is a great person and a humanitarian that was good for this world. She was a good person. The world was a better place because she was in it. But a lot of people are trying to tear her down because of colonialism that happened before she was even born, before she was even here. So I think it's unjust to try to tear her down, and that's what a lot of people are doing now. What I'm saying is what China is doing
all right
is worse than anything.
He can't.
That
This is the
England
thing
ever
I'm
did.
saying, Stacy. You allow him to babble on with nonsense for hours.
You know, all you have to do, Todd, is do this much research, Todd.
Do
this much research, Todd.
Now, let me.
But I know it's beyond you to do research more than watching The View. You watch The View, and that's
I
your
need
research.
you to do this. So
I know.
Now the Queen died.
Hey, Todd. Hey, Stephen. Stephen, you know when Todd was saying all that, talking about you going on and on and on, he reminded me of Whoopi Goldberg.
He is Whoopi Goldberg. All he needs is a cornrows or whatever she has in her hair. That's all he needs. She's already got most of the beard, and just do that.
You know, when he was going on and on talking about you, I said, "Wow, that's just like Whoopi Goldberg on The View."
You're Stacey.
I'm sorry.
Right.
What were you saying, Whoopi? I'm sorry. What were you saying, Whoopi? I mean, Todd.
Hey, Whoopi. Let's start calling him cousin Whoopi.
Okay, now back to the Queen. She did a nice job, and I don't think anybody's coming down on her per se. What they're talking about is the monarch in and of itself, and how they benefited from slavery. And not only did they benefit from it, they paid the slave owners in Jamaica tens of millions of dollars, but did not give the enslaved people anything. And as a matter of fact, they just finished paying them in 2015. That is unacceptable.
Kamala Harris's family owned slaves in Jamaica. Is that
why
unacceptable,
do you keep
Todd?
talking? So
is that unacceptable?
Just now pay
Kamala
that
Harris's
off.
family owned slaves
now he's going
in
to keep
Jamaica. Is that
repeating this.
unacceptable?
You have to tell him to shut up, or you have to mute him. He's had 40 minutes of straight talk. So that's what people are concerned about, how unfair this is. Now, nobody complains when Jews get reparations, or the Japanese gets reparations, or the natives get reparations. It's only when Black people ask for reparations does white people get up in arms about it. So that's always peculiar to me. Nevertheless, I was sorry that she died. She lived a good, long life, and she was always a hearty kind of person. And so now her son will take over as king. But I don't think after his death, this monarch will remain intact the way it is right now. I think there will be a monarch, but it won't be as important or as pomp and circumstance as it is now. I think those traditions are fading. For example, but this marriage thing, how the king could not marry a divorced woman, and nor could the king be divorced. Well, this is how you could tell this is kind of phony, because they threw all that out the window. You know, they make up rules as they go along. And so Prince Charles, who is now King Charles, married the woman he was having an affair with for decades, which is unheard of. And so she was a divorced woman, and he's divorced. And yet they were able to get married, and now she's queen consort. They changed the rules up on you without you knowing that that's what they were doing. So I think, like I said, the rules are changing, and by the time King Charles is dead, then I don't think this will be the same. I think it'll take on a different form.
I think you're right. I think it's awful what happened. They just used Diana to have a baby because Camilla couldn't have a baby. That's the only reason she was there, to have a baby for the woman that he actually really loved. He
Queen
never really
consort
loved.
has 2 children. What are you talking about? The queen consort has 2 children.
Who?
The queen
He
consort.
should have been able to have a baby out of wedlock.
He
Yeah,
never loved.
I think
he
what
never-
what Keith is saying is the children would be
That's
illegitimate,
not Keith, that's
in line.
Stephen.
Oh, they're the same freaking frat.
No, we're not.
I think
He
what
never
he's
never
saying
loved
is
Diana.
the
He
children
needed those.
would
He
not
needed those
be
children
legitimate.
to
They would
be
not be
kings
in
later.
line and succession for the to be king or queen if they were illegitimate. So it wasn't that she couldn't have children.
But
They
I'm
would just
saying
be
she couldn't have children
illegitimate.
because he married Diana because he wanted children with her, but he couldn't get over his obsession with Camilla for some reason. I don't know why. But
Okay,
he never committed.
That
to
is
Diana.
irrelevant. That is irrelevant. That is irrelevant.
It's not irrelevant.
Todd made that relevant because Whoopi does that on The View.
Wait,
but that is irrelevant.
It's who's going to take over the throne. Who's going to take over the throne?
We just want to give their family our condolences because they lost a very strong woman who spent her whole life serving her country and her territories. And I don't know if she ever had a day off.
London
Right.
Bridge is
And then we
down.
expanded that conversation to what the future holds for the monarch.
Yes.
That's
right,
what we did, which was
That's
an
right,
intelligent thing to do.
Yes.
Unlike Trump supporters.
Well, speaking
Todd,
of intelligence,
when you get over your hatred for Trump supporters, maybe you can be a more reasonable person.
Say no to drugs.
One of the things that was clear to me is that this new group headed by the former president, the former defeated president, we found ourselves in a situation where we were either going to look forward or look backwards. And it's clear which way he wants to look. It's clear which way the new MAGA Republicans are. They're extreme. And democracy is really at stake. You can't be a democracy when you support violence, when you don't like the outcome of election. You can't call yourself a democracy when you don't, in fact, count the votes that people legitimately cast and count that as who you are. You can't be a democracy and call yourself one if you continue to do what they're doing. And so, folks, look, we have a choice. When we Trump and the MAGA Republicans made their choice. We can choose to build a better America, or we can continue down this sliding path of oblivion to where we don't want to go. When you saw those people coming out of the fields down in Virginia carrying torches, literally coming out of the fields carrying torches with swastikas, chanting the same anti-Semitic bile that was chanted in literally the same anti-Semitic bile chanted in Germany in the 30s, accompanied by the Ku Klux Klan. And the guy that I beat in this last election, and when they asked what he thought, he said there were really fine people on both sides. I said something's really wrong. Something's changing.
okay. So, Cousin Todd, go ahead. Let's start with you. I'm not even going to ask you a question.
I agree with that sentiment. Now, this is the thing. I don't think all Trump supporters are bad. I don't. I think some of them are dumb, and the others are very smart. For example, these politicians like Ted Cruz and guys like that, they're very smart. They know exactly who and what Trump is and exactly what he's doing. And so they get on board for the money. And they take advantage of the less intelligent people like Keith and Stephen who believe this nonsense. Now, Ted Cruz doesn't believe any of that for a moment. Neither does any other intelligent, educated politician. But they know you do. And this is why they go along with it and tell you things like, hey, send me some money to stop the steal. And dumb people send money in the tune of hundreds of millions of dollars to stop the steal. And so, since it's a gimmick and he knows how dumb these people are, he milks it. And I hate to say it, but you can't hardly blame him. I mean, if you knew that all you had to say was, oh, you know what? The Russians are coming to get us. Send me all your money. For Donald Trump to say, stop the steal, this is what he wants to do with the money. And what does that mean? And you send him money, and he collects hundreds of millions of dollars from dumb people like Trump supporters. So he's taking advantage of them because he knows how dumb they are. And to believe some of these things, oh, 2 black women spoiled the election because they kept casting ballots, all these kind of sick, ridiculous nonsense.
Todd, are you clicking something?
No, I'm not clicking anything.
I keep hearing this click, 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 and
Well,
I don't know where he's
that's
clicking.
probably your Trump supporter. He's probably doing that to detract from what I'm saying. How much money have you sent Trump, Keith? Stephen, I mean.
Or somebody's looking at something. Something's moving. I hear something's moving. If not clicking, they're moving something. So anyway, that sound is very, very disturbing. But let me talk about that. For President Biden to increasingly make these stark warnings about former President Trump and his comments, especially during DOJ investigation into Mar-a-Lago and the paperwork that Donald Trump took back to his Mar-a-Lago estate, I think it signals something. But the question is, what does it signal?
Or top secret documents.
So, Chris, what do you think it signals? What do you think it signals, Chris?
Well, first I have a comment. And hopefully somebody will agree with this. If Donald Trump had kept his mouth shut for 6 months, he would have got reelected anyway. All he had to do was talk like a normal person. He went overboard with every single thing that he said, and it just made him look like a crazy person. As far as the documents in Mar-a-Lago, Donald Trump's unstable, and he probably will never ever be president again. But he could have won. He could have won last year, and he just talked like a normal person for 6 months. That's all he had to do. We wouldn't even be having this discussion because nobody wanted Joe Biden to be president in the first place. I didn't want him to be president. The Democrats didn't want him to be president. But Trump shot himself in the foot and kind of made Joe Biden president. Now we're stuck with it. That's all. You're on mute.
Thank you. Thank you, Stephen. I think when President Biden, took the gloves off and he made a line between those people who thought like former President Trump and those people who didn't, I think he was setting up the voting for the primaries for the Democrats to win. Do you agree?
Oh, no. The Democrats cannot win. And independents, I'm an independent. I'm not a Trumper. I'm a never Trumper. I'm an independent. And all the independents are not going to go the way Biden is, where you're going to lose because nobody agrees with you. Even though I don't like Donald Trump, I agree with the stuff that he did, his policies, more than the left. The left is killing us right now. Anybody that has any marginal income right now is getting hurt because of Biden's policies. No, I don't agree. We will vote for anybody that will go Donald Trump's way. You are going to lose. Y'all are all going to lose on the left because we don't accept your policies. It's hurting Americans. The middle class, the working class is getting killed because of the policies of Joe Biden, not because of Donald Trump, but because of Joe Biden. We want to go back to 2019 when we were all doing well. Y'all are done. Y'all are done. The only way you can win is to cheat. The only way Joe Biden won was because they cheated. Time Magazine did an article in 2020, I think it was, that said, this is the way we cheated. This is the way we won the election. It was a concerted effort by big tech,
you better stop
big
him.
media
You will get
that
sued
would
for
make
that.
sure that it would shut everybody else up, that big media would shut everybody up and cancel them so the word could not get out. We are the populace,
hear you,
and the
Stacey.
populace all over this world.
Because I asked him
listen
a
to
question.
me. The populace.
Stephen can answer the question any way he sees fit. I just asked him the question.
What he just did was lied and said,
I did not lie.
A magazine.
Let me talk.
A magazine.
I did not lie. I did not lie.
The Democrats.
So where are you getting that information from, Stephen? Stephen, where are you
win.
getting that information from?
What are you talking about, Stacy?
Where
I'm not
did you
getting
get
it from the
Just tell her where you got
government
the
media.
information.
I'm not getting it from the government media. We are going to destroy
Did you
this
see
election. If they will let it be real, if they will not cheat, we will. It will be a red wave like you've never seen.
And
it will be
your
a red
show
wave
will
like
get
Moses
sued.
parting the Red Sea.
He doesn't
We
have
will
any money, so
destroy
nobody's
the
going
left.
after him.
The
They're
left
going
is
after
trying to
your
destroy
show.
this country. The Marxists in this country.
Well, Whoopi has money, so maybe we'll take it from Todd Whoopi /
Stacey,
Whoopi.
let me just help you. Right now, you have to say what he says has nothing to do with my opinion. My opinion is the opposite
already
of that.
said that.
And
that is Stephen's opinion. I already said that's
his remarks have
Stephen's
nothing to do with this show.
And it doesn't represent Sporlitiks. It's Stephen's opinions. So I know you're glad about that, Todd. You're sitting there like you just ate the canary.
Because it's ridiculous for him to make up these things, and you sit there, which is what a judge would say. You allowed it.
No,
without
he had the right to
distancing
say whatever he
yourself from
chooses.
That his opinion is not the opinion of Sporlitiks.
It does not
He just
represent
made that
Sporlitiks.
crap up.
It represents Stephen's opinion, and that's what I said. I started off saying that. You're making this bigger than it is because you don't have your board stiff. So anyway,
you'll see about board stiff. People get sued constantly if they think you got any money, and with a nut job like him, lying left, right, and sideways, be prepared. Anyway,
can I ask Stephen a question?
Go ahead.
Stephen, do you agree that Donald Trump lost the election more so than Joe Biden won it?
No. I don't believe Joe Biden got more. I don't believe Joe Biden got more votes than Barack Obama. No, I don't believe it. I believe it was fixed. I believe 100% it was fixed. And it's going to come out. If we can win, if the Republicans can win the House and the Senate, we will show you that it was a fake election. 100%. I have the receipts. I have the proof. It was a fake election.
Where are those receipts? Did you give them to a judge?
Yep. No, a lot of the judges were appointed by
Donald
Soros,
Trump.
and they're Republican. A lot of Republicans that are on the tape.
All right, I got to move on.
I 100% guarantee if we win, you will say, "Oh, I'm sorry, Stephen."
Stay off the dark web, Stephen.
100%. It was a stolen election.
This is the conspiracy theory.
And 9/11 was not an insurrection.
And they
we did not want to take over the country.
No proof.
We wanted a
even
fair
though
and equal
Republican
election.
judges
We didn't
have
get
said,
it this time.
no, that's not what happened. That's not true.
Zuckerberg put millions of dollars into this election.
So you can only believe Donald Trump and nobody else.
The FBI.
Look, the FBI, first he loves the men in blue.
They've already said with Facebook that the FBI came to them and said the Joe Biden laptop, the laptop with Joe Biden, they said, don't do anything. We have proof. It's from their own mouths.
Look, we have proof. Where's the proof, Stephen?
Don't say anything before the election about Joe Biden. They told Facebook that. And if anybody talks about it,
let's move on,
kick
because
them off.
what he's doing is degrading your show into the dark web. So we should move on.
You're a liar.
Because
so I'm bored.
This is the dark web.
And you're going to pay for all of your lies.
No, you're going to pay. And
everybody
we're going to
on the
come
wrong
and get
side
you.
of the truth is going to
Say
pay.
no to drugs,
it's wrong.
crazy.
You are wrong, Todd. You're a bad person. You're not a good person.
Look at
all right,
this
so
devil.
I want to talk about.
Watch after this election in November.
This is how
everything's
crazy
going
Trump
to change.
supporters are. Do you see
You're
how
wrong,
sick they are? This is why Joe Biden said we've got to do something about
election.
these
Joe
blacks.
Biden did not win. Donald Trump had 1 million people coming out to see him. Joe Biden had 5 people to see him.
Now,
There's no way he won.
This is
Tony,
how
you
crazy
stupid.
these people are.
Okay. So that answers your question, Chris?
Yeah, Chris, now you've been introduced to quacks. Stephen is crazy. And so
Chris,
we got proof. We're going to come and get you. We're coming after you. And we're going to win. And Trump is great. And America first.
I think.
All right.
I think Trump started out good, but he just went off the rails in the middle of his term. And he's a crazy person.
But when you say started out good, he started out coming down an escalator saying Mexicans are rapists and dope dealers, and I guess a few of them are good people. That's divisive.
They say the same thing about black people.
What? That's divisive.
Yeah.
Trump would say that about black people and Mexicans, just not white people. So that kind of talk is divisive, and it has no place in America.
In a president, it has no place from a presidential perspective because a president is supposed to represent every American, regardless of one's race, ethnicity, anything, gender. The president represents every American, and it doesn't matter what the American or who the American is. So, Chris, my question for you would be, how can you as a black man sit there and say that?
Here's my point. Donald Trump didn't elect himself president. The people of America elected him president.
White people.
The first election, fair and square. He didn't trick anybody out of it. This is what America wanted. Not necessarily what I wanted or what you wanted, but the majority of people voted for Donald Trump because they thought he was the best choice to be president over Hillary Clinton. And there's a lot of reasons behind it. Economy, liberalism, which some of it sounds a lot kooky. And there's a lot of different reasons why Donald Trump got elected president. For the same reason why he didn't get elected the second time.
Right.
They didn't want to elect a president. They wanted to elect somebody who was unpresidential, and that's exactly what they got.
Right. Now, I can agree with you there, though he didn't get more votes than Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton got more votes than he did from the popular vote. But America is the dumbest place on earth. And so they were busy hating this white woman. You know, white men hate white women, and they taught others how to hate them. And so that's a long story, but white men have always hated women, particularly white women, so bad to where they would have a slave get the right to vote before a white woman. Isn't that peculiar? Now, don't forget, this white woman is his wife, daughter, mother, aunt, and you wouldn't give them the right to vote, but you would give it to a slave? That's some serious hate. And women were property, their property, up until the 70s. Equal pay for equal work. White Republican men want none of that. Keep her under your foot. Get in that kitchen and you better not have no shoes on. So nevertheless, but people did vote for Trump because of Barack Obama. The racist Americans were so outdone that this black so-and-so won, they couldn't take it. So get out to the polls no matter what you got to do. And they did, and he won. Enough of them came out, and so he won. And the sensible people knew better. They just hated Hillary because that was the popular thing to do, hate Hillary. But get this person who was very dumb, very ignorant, just uncouth, somebody you would not want representing you. And of course, he went all over the world and was laughed at. Did you see some of the antics when he went to Europe and pushing a guy out of the way? He was just an embarrassment to the United States. And even Stephen knows that because Stephen said so. This is back in the good old days when Stephen had common sense. Like, for example, when Donald Trump said, I could shoot somebody in the middle of Fifth Avenue and not lose one voter. Stephen said, he's calling them stupid. He's calling you stupid. If you're saying he could shoot somebody and not, he's calling you. And so that's what Stephen said. Stephen said Trump is a dictator. Trump wants to be king. These are all Stephen's words. You can go back to our past shows and listen to them. And so then all of a sudden, Stephen switched up, you see, because he's been indoctrinated into this radicalism. And so then all of a sudden, Stephen hates Joe Biden. He's evil. Now, before Trump was evil, now Joe Biden is evil. It is the most ridiculous thing I've ever
Todd,
seen. Even
you
the
can't talk the whole
insurrection.
show.
He said that was not an insurrection. He said we were let in. I said, yeah, but Stephen, what about banging the door down and taking the windows out? And no, it wasn't an insurrection. That was
FBI said
Antifa.
it wasn't.
It was a Black Lives Matter. That's what he said.
Okay.
So,
can we
say
move
no to
on?
drugs.
So earlier
Yeah.
today, before President Biden went to Delaware to vote in his primary.
You see how crazy he is? Nobody's even reading this stuff. You can't even see it. But he's so cuckoo. Oh, gosh. Say no to drugs. Go ahead, Stacey, and stop reading your text.
Yeah. Well, I'm reading it because Keith wants to come on.
Oh, no. Don't. You can't have two quacks on at the same time. Come on
I
now.
called your sister a quack because your sister's a quack.
You see this? Now, that was rude and ignorant. And
that was rude.
He's
and
calling.
I didn't like that.
She came on here and lied during COVID.
She's not
she
a quack.
lied just like
She's a
Fauci
board
lied.
certified
MD.
She's not a
I
quack.
said Fauci's a quack.
She's not a quack.
That's why she
She's
doesn't
not a
come on the
quack.
show anymore, because she knows she's a quack. So you
She's
call
not
me
a
a
quack.
quack.
She's not a
I was
quack.
right.
She's a board certified medical
I don't care if
doctor.
she's certified. Fauci's certified. Fauci destroyed this country.
Do you see this? Stay off the dark web, Stephen. Stay off the dark web.
I've got Keith on for a little while. Keith, we're talking about President Biden and his MAGA comments and how he made a division between those who, like you, believe in what happened with Trump and those who don't.
Extremists.
Do you think President Biden was trying to kind of make it easier for people to vote Democratic come these primaries and the election in November?
Well, let's analyze it. Let's analyze this. In his speech, he also said he indicated that the people don't like the way the country is going, or maybe they don't want to. They want to save the country from going the direction it's going.
From radicalism.
If you look at the way the country's going, it's run by the Democrats. So Biden is the one in charge. He's the one that screwed it up. When Trump left office, everything was good. But,
everything was good?
Screwed everything up. Yes, everything was
Even
good.
the insurrection? The insurrection
was
was good?
There was no insurrection.
No
insurrection. Look at these Trump supporters.
Stupid.
What did you call it?
There was no insurrection.
What do you call it? What
the
do you
FBI
call
said
it?
it wasn't an insurrection.
I'm going to go.
What do you call it, Keith?
Camera off for a minute, but I'll keep talking.
What do you call it, Keith?
What
do you call that insurrection?
What I called it was a protest. It was a protest of patriots, and they were egged on by the police. I have a friend who was there.
Or by the president?
FBI. The FBI.
Okay, all right. Wait a minute, Keith. This is what you call it, but this is your representation. This does not represent Sporlitiks or what Sporlitiks believes. This is what you
said
believe.
It was not an insurrection. The FBI said it's not an insurrection. Why do you keep calling it an insurrection?
Let him finish.
Let
He's got to finish. Go ahead, Steve.
Keith, finish. This is my opinion. It is not Sporlitiks' opinion, and I just wanted to say that it was not an insurrection. It was a protest, a peaceful protest that started out peaceful, and there were people who were within the crowd, FBI agents and other people who egged them on. There was this big, tall giant of a man who was egging them on, and he was an FBI informant, FBI agent, or an FBI whatever. Anyway, he was planted there, and he tried to cause trouble, but they didn't listen. They didn't listen to him. So I have a friend who was there. She was there physically. She said that they started throwing gas. They started, the gas bombs at us. And when they did that, people just got upset. So there were a few people got upset. Police officers also egged them on. So that's exactly what happened. She was there. None of you guys on this show were there. I wasn't there. How can you then say that I'm lying? Because this person
on TV.
It doesn't matter.
I would have never been there. I would have never done that to my country. But we have Nas on. Nas, welcome to Sporlitiks, where sports and politics mix and mingle. What's your comment?
Stacey, you're ignorant to what happened that day. You're ignorant to what happened. There are people in solitary confinement for 600
They're not
days.
in solitary confinement. You got that off the dark web, quack.
Go ahead, Nas.
No, I mean, people really should take their medicine. Like, if you've been prescribed something by a physician, like, you really should take your medicine. You shouldn't be calling into shows without taking your medicine. You're going to sound awful. Just advice for some people. So even though I wasn't alive for the Boston Tea Party, I could read the account of what happened at the Boston Tea Party. I can read from, survivors. We can read from, what the official court records are. And we can kind of come to a conclusion on what happened. So because there's hundreds of hours of video, the text messages, all kinds of data that was gathered from everybody's phones that was there, the people who planned on doing things like they did during this insurrection. And, the thing that's left out mostly when we talk about this, we got to remember, this was about certifying an election that their side lost. And they thought through violent means that they would stop it. There's the infamous story of Mike Pence. Would Mike Pence be alive today if he got in that car? We'll never know. But either way, it's too late today for y'all to still be telling these YouTube and Facebook stories. You're adults. Take your medicine and grow up. How you doing, Stacey? How you doing, Akuna? How you doing, Cousin Todd? And the others.
Okay, so Nas, we have to say Aguna's not on with us tonight. He unfortunately lost his mother, and our thoughts and prayers are with him and his family at this time. But everyone else is on, including my cousin Chris. He came on to join us and say a few things. He's a Buffalo Bills fan.
That's unfortunate. Oh, cousin Chris and Aguna would preach to the family. That's man.
Yeah.
Go Bills.
Yeah, thoughts and prayers, Aguna. Let's move on. I'm going to leave the anniversary of 9/11 for our roundtable because that's a very important part of our history. I want to talk about what's going on in Ukraine, and more specifically, Nas, you can start off about them closing that nuclear plant and about them making inroads against the Russian forces.
Before he goes into that, I wondered if he wanted to talk about the Queen and what he thinks about people wanting reparations and that sort of thing.
Really, who cares? Really, who cares?
Go ahead, Nas. Did you hear him?
Yeah. I mean, I really have nothing to say about somebody of that. What would you call it? Of that background dying. Like when we talk about like the criminality we see in the streets, and people talk about a thug or a criminal or whatever, somebody in America that does something and goes to jail. That's one thing. But when you talk about a generational crime family that has committed genocide and atrocities all over the globe, that would make a mobster blush. Like, I don't have any kind of words for them or their family. These are terrible people, and they need to give back everything that they have stolen. And yes, I mean everything, from everything in the British Museum to everything that makes up the Church of England and everything else. All of the gold and everything else acquired with the blood of not only my ancestors, but also the Irish. The many, there's over 167 countries in the world that celebrate Independence Day from England. Meaning at one point they had to be under the heel of England to have an Independence Day of breaking free from them. So again, no, I'm not going to mourn a crime family, a tyrant, and some of the people, I guess you would say, who've done the worst human rights abuses in human history. So no, I'm not gonna speak
what do
on
you?
it. They are some respectable institution.
Well, what do you say to people that say, "Well, she didn't do it. She came into office. I mean, came into her uh,
her reign
in the 30s, in 1930s.
50s.
So no, in the 50s, right? She was born in 1926, so she was about 26 when she became queen.
She had nothing to do with any of that.
So what do you say to people that say, well, you know, what can she do? Well, go ahead.
Well, again, when you're talking about stolen wealth, you're talking about blood money, the thing you can do is denounce it, refuse to participate in it. But once you decide you're going to participate in it, you're actually laundering the atrocities done before and trying to put a soft veneer on as if there's something to celebrate there. So, no, I couldn't care less about that family. And anything that happens to them, they deserve the worst because they've inflicted the worst on this world.
Okay, well, Nas, I think you don't represent the thoughts of Sporlitiks. You represent in your personal opinion. Our thoughts and prayers are still with the Queen and the royal family. That's where we differ.
That's fine. My hero. That's why my heroes tend to be sports men and women and writers and things like that. People don't have blood on their hands. You know, that's just a standard.
Well, you don't know if they have blood on their hands.
There's a lot of sports heroes that have blood on their hands.
But anyway, Nas, I have on green lipstick, green eyeshadow, green shirt because the Eagles won this week.
That's good. It's good.
Hey, did Atlanta win this week? Ask him that, Stacy.
Did Atlanta win this week, Nas?
No, they did not. And that's fine.
Hey, Nas, did you eat another hat? Hey, Nas,
yes, we do.
Hey, guys, can we get back on the politics? I mean, let's get out of the subject of us.
We can. But that was Todd. Todd was acting like Keith and Steven, hijacking the show and taking us down another road. Todd loves to go sightseeing down roads. So I guess he thought he would just, I don't know, take that down the road. Anyway, back to, I want to talk about the nuclear reactor in Ukraine. According to NPR.com article written by Alyssa Nadworny on September 11th, she says that the nuclear power plant in southern Ukraine, controlled by Russia and at the center of much of international concern, has announced they are powering down the final working reactor. Because of shelling in and around the area, the entire plant has been cut off from the electricity grid for several days, with the one working reactor on island mode, essentially powering the rest of the plant's crucial cooling systems. Now, why in the world would Russian President Vladimir Putin allow shelling around that nuclear plant? Let's start with Stephen, and then Todd, Nas, and Keith. Stephen?
Because he wants to control all the power in the region. He's controlling the power in Germany and France and everywhere else, Ukraine, everywhere else, because that's where the power is. This is why you have to be independently controlled with your power, and they're not. A lot of countries are going back to nuclear, which is very green. We've been scared about nuclear power to say we don't want it because something could happen. We've seen movies about it that were sensationalized, but nuclear power is a great way to go. It's better than anything else, and we need it badly. We don't need the windmills. We don't need anything else like that. We need nuclear power. And Germany has come back to nuclear power because they need it, because they're not getting what they need. And Russia cut European countries off. They're trying to mess up the Ukraine with their power. This is what it's all about. If you don't have the energy to help you through the winter months, which are coming up, you're going to be in big trouble. And that's what Russia is doing. They're cutting the pipeline to the European people. And Donald Trump said, one thing he said right was, don't trust Russia because they're going to screw you over. And that's what they've been doing. They're screwing people
Is that
over.
before or
There's going to
after
be a
he
lot of
made
people
love
that
to
die because they don't get the power that they need during these winter months. This is a huge problem worldwide, and we can fix it if it wasn't for the greeny weenies that are saying we don't need to do the things we are doing. We need the oil. We need nuclear. We need everything that we can have to make things right in this world. We had energy independence in this country under Donald Trump.
Okay, here we go again.
And Joe Biden stopped all that. This is hurting us. It's going to hurt Todd. It's going to hurt Stacy.
Right.
It's going to hurt Nas. It's going to hurt everybody.
Right. Thank you.
Because people are stupid.
Stephen, okay, I got to go to Keith. Keith, are you there? Keith, are you there?
Yeah, I am here.
Okay. If you can't see it, but the screen talks about the powering down was a precaution as it is the safest mode for the reactors. There are still major worries that the plant could be disconnected from the grid by the shelling. This is very dangerous. And for Vladimir Putin to allow his troops to do so says what?
Well, it says that he doesn't care about life, human life. And obviously he doesn't care. He's willing to risk not only the lives of his men, his soldiers, but the lives of others, not just Ukrainians, but probably the lives of people in Russians as well. So it's quite obvious that he doesn't care. And I want to say it's very important, like Stephen said, that a nation, just like individuals, see, this is the way it works in the laws of nature. It says that we ought to be self-governing. That's the way God made us, to govern ourselves according to his law. If we govern ourselves, we have better protection, more safety. And that's what's happening to the world now. They're not governing, self-governing people. And we have to become self-governing and independent once again. So that's very important. Anybody there?
Yeah, thank you. Let me go to Nas and then Cousin Todd.
Yeah, I mean, I can't really speak to this extensively because I haven't done enough as far as being up on my reading on the latest developments over there. But, you know, sometimes in stories there are no good guys. So on one hand, you got the authoritarian strong man from Russian intelligence. If you go back to his KGB days, Vladimir Putin, who wants to rule in a certain way and sees certain areas as only spheres of influence for Russia, and he's going to act violently in every way. And then on the other side, we have what we would consider the West, who has constantly been infringing upon their borders, adding on new NATO members, and creating tension between the two sides. So, again, sometimes there are no good guys. And we're talking about in the midst of war. And what people are willing to do in the midst of war, I'm pretty much not surprised. So, yeah, this is a terrible, terrible development. Hopefully we can get to some point of people sitting down at the table and negotiating some kind of peace terms.
Cousin Todd.
Putin is just a tyrant. And he wanted to take back Ukraine because they once owned Ukraine. And so he wanted to take it back. But the Ukrainians don't want to go back. And so for you to think you can go and take a territory that doesn't belong to you, it's just crazy. And for him to go right ahead and do it, well, the Ukrainians were prepared. And luckily, the United States were backing Ukraine. Now, if Donald Trump had won the election, Russia would own Ukraine as we speak. But fortunately, Joe Biden won the election. Surprise, Keith and Stephen. And so we're sending help without going into war ourselves.
That?
Which,
how do you think that's true? Will you explain that a little more?
I don't know what you're saying.
Will you elaborate on that a little bit?
On what?
Why you think that Russia would own Ukraine if
Oh.
Trump?
Oh, okay. Because Ukraine needed Americans' help, and Donald Trump blocked them from getting help from the United States, unless Ukraine said Joe Biden is being investigated, which wasn't true. And so, unless he made that statement, he was going to withhold the money. You remember that? The weapons. You remember that, don't you?
Okay.
And so he was, Putin and Donald Trump were friends. You remember that when you said you don't know, and Stephen said you don't know why Trump would side with Putin when the conversation was around who wait a minute, I want to get the wording right. He said he didn't know why Putin would say no if he really did.
We're going to run out of time by the time you get the wording right.
He doesn't know why Putin would say no if he really did it. And the Americans were saying 17 agencies said he did it. Your own agencies. How are you siding with this nut?
So why didn't Putin just attack Ukraine during Trump's reign of 4 years? Why didn't he? I mean, he could have done it then.
No, he couldn't, because Trump.
Jump in anytime you like.
I don't know what you're saying, Stacey.
I was talking to Nas.
Oh, and so he couldn't because they had an agreement. Trump and Putin were buddies. And so he wasn't going to step on Trump.
Anyway, I got to move on. We're running out of time. We got to get out of here in like
the question
3
he said
minutes.
Was, why? I don't know. Maybe he's great in bed.
So we got to get out of here in like 3 minutes. So I want to say, yeah, Keith, you've been gone a long time. American schools, you know, kids are back in school. Now parents have lunch bills. I don't think we have any parents on here. We did, well, no, none that have children in primary school. Let's put it that way. So how are people going to afford these, you know, they had a break with lunch, you know, without charge for the last 2 years. How do we pay for kids' lunches? Let's start with Keith, then Todd, Nas, and then Stephen. Keith?
Well, you know, I'm not rich, but we are not poor either. So I guess we're the in-between people, those are the ones, the main ones the IRS wants to go after, the middle class. We're what's left of the middle class, and they want to destroy the middle class. So they'll probably come after that dynamic. But I would say, because I have nieces in middle school. One is 11, one is 12. They're in public school, and you know they still serve lunches for free. Okay, but most of my time the nieces, they don't eat it anyway. They don't like the school lunches. And believe me, if it came down to it, we would certainly be able to. We have the capability to feed our nieces. My wife and I, we have the ability to feed them. So we're not worried about lunches and school lunches, and that's the least of our worries about that. So, I mean, I don't know what other people's situation is, but that's our situation.
Okay, so thank you. If you look at the screen, universal lunches are basically going to stop the federal government's program. So according to this article by Tammy Luby, CNN, written Saturday, September 10th, 2022, there are other programs. Some federal waivers continue and others don't. Congress approved a slew of waivers that gave districts more flexibility to continue serving meals when schools were closed and children were learning remotely. I remember driving by and seeing, I don't know if any of you saw this, but I remember seeing people outside of schools with bags of lunches for the students. The students could come by at certain times and pick up their lunches to eat. Now, because, and they say in what food they could serve amid the supply chain disruptions, the waivers continued even as schools reopened over the past 2 years. But now they're going to cut some of that away because Congress only extended it to a certain point. Some flexibilities in the 2022 to 2023 academic year.
So,
Nas, are you there? You still there, Nas?
Yeah, I'm still there.
So what do parents do about feeding their children at lunch?
Self-government.
Well, this is the same way people have organized for years, and every bit of progress we've seen in America has come from organizing and people deciding, hey, this is a thing that should be done. They create enough momentum for that thing to happen, and then eventually that thing gets written into some type of legislation. So this is just something that the government needs to be able to handle. If a country can't look after its elderly and its children, especially in times of need, then I don't know what the purpose of a country would be. Humans are your greatest resource, so you should invest in them. So the same way you were able to draw up that money to send to Ukraine in 48 hours, the same way you can draw that big check to the DOD every time they ask for more money, you can allocate some of that money for this. And again, remember, the Black Panther Party for Self-Defense, their program, their free breakfast program, was taken by the state of California. They took the idea, and then other states went on to follow, and you saw what? Upticks in health and everything, caloric intake and everything else for children in those states who took on those programs. And it will be the same thing here. So you just see it as something as that should be invested in. I don't even know why this would even be an argument. Like, children in need, you take care of them.
Stephen.
Well, just like Ukraine, they're getting money from us that they don't really need. It's just some kind of funky thing that's going between our country to their country. There's a lot of children that do not need to get fed from their school. They get breakfast, lunch, and dinner free all through the entire year. And it's a bunch of garbage because their parents have enough money, but they're just using our tax money the same way our tax money goes to Ukraine, and they shouldn't have our money either. I agree with you, Nas. It's a bunch of garbage that so much money is going to the Ukraine, billions of dollars and billions of dollars, and then money's going to people who need school and have school lunches that you can pay for. You know what? The smallest thing you can do is pay for your children to have something to eat. It's not that much. When I was a kid, it was $1, $2, whatever. It can't be that much. So the parents of these kids can make sure they have enough money that they can pay it. It's a bunch of crap. It's more socialist crap that they're pushing through this country that should never happen.
Okay, Cousin Todd, we're out of time. We're out of time.
Other countries that don't deserve it, and we shouldn't pay for people to eat. They can afford to feed themselves.
Okay, Cousin Todd.
This is the kind of stupidity Donald Trump knows he's dealing with. That's why he said, I want you to help me stop the stealing. Send me money and the tune of hundreds of millions of dollars so I can stop this steal. Okay, dum-dums? Okay, partners, America first. And people like him send him money. For him to say, people can feed their children, they just don't want to. That is beyond dumb. And Stephen, he wasn't this way all the time. He used to say, I think we should help each other because I love everybody. That's what he used to say. And so he said, we should help each other. Now we're talking about children who are hungry and their parents can't afford lunches. And so, of course, you should take care of the children's lunch. It's not a big deal. There should be no hungry American in America. None. And the fact that there are hungry children in America is disgraceful.
It's not.
And then these Republicans talk about, quote unquote, third world countries. America is a third world country. We have so much homelessness and hunger, and we're talking about children and
Thank you, Joe
elderly,
Biden. And
where they
Because of
can't
you.
afford to
Because
buy
of
their
you.
medicine.
All right,
and
I'm
it's-
out of time.
Because of
It's a
you.
choice.
Because of
Either you
you.
eat or you buy your medication.
Because of you. You.
I'm out of time.
Look at this nut job. It's
Because of you, we have homelessness.
It's you.
Because of the Democrats. Because of you.
Look
Okay,
at this.
so there
Stay
are
off
midterm
the dark
elections.
web and say no to drugs, Stephen.
There are midterm elections going on. The polls have closed in the following states: New Hampshire, Rhode Island, and Delaware. New Hampshire and Rhode Island they're having some big races tonight. I don't have enough time to share my screen. Let's do our round table real quick. We'll start with Steve. We start with Keith, then Stephen, then Nas, then Cousin Todd. What the anniversary of 9/11 means? What the anniversary of 9/11 means to you? And you got like 15 seconds, Keith.
Well, it means that we were successfully, we came out of it. We overcame. We lost lives, yes, but we overcame, just like every other kind of war we overcame. And we are still fighting. Our Constitution is still intact, even though the Democrats and people like Todd and Nas, the Marxists, they are all attacking it. So all standing against the Lord and his anointed. But we will stand strong in spite of it.
Thank you, Stephen.
Just like the Taliban.
9/11 meant the loss of our rights as citizens in this country. That's what 9/11 meant. That's what the Patriot Act means. That's what every president has signed into law every time that they have the choice to. Even Donald Trump did. I'm another Trumper. Don't forget it, Todd. But this is what hurt the citizens of this country was 9/11. This is what hurt this country was 9/11. This is what the Patriot Act did. This is why now Joe Biden and his ilk has claimed that we are the terrorists. We're bad people. We're worse than Al Qaeda. We're worse than the people at 9/11. That's what your president, Joe Biden, says about people like me and Keith. You ought to be ashamed of yourself, Todd, because I'm ashamed of you.
Oh, good.
By the way,
thank you, Nas.
Supporter. Just for the record, I'm a Trump supporter.
Any tragic event, I think the focus should be on the victims of that tragedy. So, salute to the families of the people who've lost people during that period, the people who are still fighting to get their just due as far as compensation for the sicknesses that their family had to deal with afterwards. And it was a terrible event and a sad one because it also exposed how irrational we are, how violent we are, and our response to that event was even worse than the event. When you look at the amount of Iraqi, Afghan children who ended up dying in our forever wars afterwards, when we found just due reason after the terrorist attack, where we said, oh, okay, now we can kind of create our whole strategy around this concept of terror. And then we started to terrorize that region of the world. So terrible, terrible event. But again, the focus should always be on the people in New York who lost lives. But we also have to, hold ourselves into account and think about, and of course I disagree with Stephen, but we also have to think about how irrational we behaved in accepting something like the Patriot Act afterwards, where people were going after Muslims, showing our true nature, as I would say about Americans after that period. But yes, terrible, terrible event. Sad that it happened, and I wish everybody well, all of the families that were affected.
Thank you, Cousin Todd.
Yeah, it was a sad time, and the victims who didn't stand a chance, who were doing nothing but going to work like we all do every day. And it was tragic. But at that time, America came together and became whole again. And after that, Donald Trump won an election. Lord have mercy. So nevertheless, America is coming back together. If we can get rid of these crackpots like Keith and Stephen who flip flop, and I love Trump. I'm a never Trumper. I love Trump.
Todd, you can't talk all night. We have to go. We're out of time.
But he's great in bed. Well, it's just that these crazy people that pretend that Donald Trump did something good. Oh, his policies. Then you ask them what policies. They won't answer you. Nevertheless, Keith and Stephen are both crazy, and they think there was not an insurrection, and they think it was just a peaceful protest until the FBI raided the Capitol. Right? Trump. To drugs and stay off the dark web. I beg you.
Okay. I had to play the music just to get him to stop. He would have kept talking like there's no time limit. My thoughts and prayers are with all those who lost family members and all lost Americans in 9/11. Tragic, horrible day for our country. And I'm so glad we were able to come together. Those people were our first responders, and we are so indebted to them. So to our first responders in our communities who make our lives livable. And this is what I'm talking about. That's what 9/11, they were our first responders. Thank you to our women and men of the U.S. military for all that you do. When you got ready for any attack on America on 9/11. You were ready and waiting, and we are forever indebted. And because of you, we're free to choose to say whatever we do on the show. On behalf of Aguna, our thoughts and prayers are with him and his family at this time. The Nigerian moderate Republican Keith, the constitutional conservative. Keith, sorry about that. Stephen, the independent thinker, and my cousin Todd. I'm Stacey Johnson. Let's keep this conversation going on social media. Check out our new Instagram page. Thank you, Nas. Thank you, my cousin Chris. If you want to come on our show, send me a note on YouTube or on Instagram. DM me, and we'll talk about it. And we'd love to have you on. We'll see you next week. We're back. We'll see you next week, 7:30. Good night.